The biggest challenge of starting a business is you getting out there and actually doing it. I mean, something like 60% of people in the world want to start a business, and only 5% of people actually do it. When you fix problems, the revenue goes up because the friction gets removed. You're putting the attention and the care and the detail into a product and just iterating. But once you get going, it gets easier and easier and easier over time. As you learn, you get confidence and you become resilient, and no one's going to serve you life on a platter. You've got to forge your own destiny, forge your own future, and you have no excuse now.
Hi, I am Tatjana Pandurevic, and welcome to Moonshot, a space where comfort zones don't exist. Having spent most of my life scared to take risks, the one thing I am seeking now is to be surrounded by more people who are courageous, bold, unafraid, and relentless in their pursuit for success to help inspire me and hopefully you. In this podcast, we dive deep into the minds of individuals who see no limits, those who dream big and defy boundaries. Today on Moonshot, I'm thrilled to welcome Matt Barrie, founder and CEO of Freelancer, the world's largest freelancing marketplace, with over 70 million users and 23 million projects completed in more than 3,000 categories. From web development to astrophysics, Matt has revolutionized how businesses and freelancers connect and collaborate globally. We'll explore Matt's incredible journey of building and scaling Freelancer.com. We'll uncover how the platform empowers entrepreneurs to bring their ideas to life and the exciting trends shaping the future of freelancing in a rapidly evolving world. We'll also dive into the transformative power of AI, how it has evolved from its early beginnings to its profound impact on industries and the possibilities it unlocks for businesses. We'll discuss key milestones, real-world applications, and the economic impact of widespread adoption. Plus, Matt will showcase a live demo of an AI agent in action. If you're passionate about innovation, growth, and technology's power to reshape the way we work, this is an episode you won't want to miss. Let's dive in. Matt, thank you so much for joining the Moonshot podcast. Super excited for this conversation. Part one, we'll be talking about all the things you've done with Freelancer and how you've scaled it into the largest freelancing platform in the world. And then part two, we're going to get right into the world of AI. Super excited for the conversation.
Looking forward to it.
So you've grown Freelancer into a pretty big platform. Can you take us back to the early days? What was the initial vision and how did you scale it to where it is today?
Well, I had just left my last company, which is a fabless semiconductor company, which is probably the most complicated technology in the world. It's an integrated circuit that scans network traffic at high speeds and all this other stuff. And I was looking for the next thing to do. And I told my mum a long time ago she should build a website for her business. So she runs a wholesaler for arts, crafts, paints, glues, and so forth. And I told her in 1995 to build a website. You would probably been born in 1995, but that was kind of when the internet kind of went crazy. If she did that, she would have been the Jeff Bezos of e-commerce. But fast forward to 2007, she hadn't built a website. And so, Mum, okay, I'll build the website for you. I've got a bit of spare time. I'll get it together. So I can program. So I kind of threw up a site. But I couldn't do data. I had this data entry to do. And it was really laborious. It was basically fill in a spreadsheet, name of a shop, phone number of a shop, URL of a shop, email address of a shop, etc. And I thought, gee, I don't want to do this work. This is like a lot of effort. I need to fill in a few thousand rows. So I thought this is a job that like a little kid would like to have, like a little brother or sister of a friend of mine. You sit at home on a computer in your own time. I'll pay you $2 per row. I'll give you $2,000 to fill in 1,000 rows.
That is a lot of money, especially at that time and age.
People would love it. All right, like I don't know, some high school kid or uni student would love to do this in your own time. I know I would have loved to do it when I was kind of back at school, whatever. And it was really frustrating. Like there were you'd find someone and then they go, oh, I've got soccer practice, or this is really boring. And I go, no, it's boring. That's why I'm getting you to do it, right? Or I've got exams, and they kind of stop, start. And that went on for a few months. I had a few kind of false starts with a few different people. And I thought, how on earth am I going to get this thing done? And back then, it's not really a job you could put anywhere. I mean, maybe you could call up a university and there was usually a whiteboard or a chalkboard that kind of write up a few jobs. Like at Sydney Uni, they had that. Or maybe down the supermarket, there was like I think people could put up little odd jobs. But it's not something you could really, it's not really a full-time job. It's just a project. And in frustration, I was searched the internet and I found this website called Get a Freelancer. And it looked horrible. Like it was all in these grays and what have you. And it was, looked like it was designed by some Ukrainians with the leftover paint from, a submarine or something. It was just a horrible looking thing, but there was always activity on it. And I didn't actually know what was going on, but I thought, okay, it looks like I can get some data entry work done there. So I clicked on a button and I posted this job. And I actually went to lunch and I actually forgot I posted the job. And I came back a few hours later and my inbox had something like 73 emails saying I'll do the job. And my budget was $2,000. And the emails were like, I'll do it for 1,000, 500, 400, 300, 200, 100. And the first thing I thought was, this can't be real. The first thing I thought was like, there's no way this is real. I've just spent 4 months trying to find people. There's no way there's like all these people wanting to do the job. So I started browsing through and clicking on links and going seeing people's profiles. And I realized, okay, it looks like it is real. I thought, why is someone bidding $100 when my budget was $2,000? I thought that's a bit strange. And then I realized everyone's from all over the world. So in some, the work to fill in 1,000 rows in a spreadsheet, it might take 2 or 3 days. And for some people, $100 for 2 or 3 days work is actually good pay, because back then 5 billion people lived on $10 a day, right? So I looked through and I realized, okay, there's people from all around the world, and I found a team. I hired them. They did the job. It was perfect. They did it in 2 or 3 days, and a light bulb just went off in my head. I thought, this is absolutely incredible. I'm looking to start a new company. I just left my last company. And I thought, I could start any business at all with this. I could start a business and just off the back of my credit card, I can get people to do web development. I can get people to do design. I can program, but I'm not very good at design. It's got to hire designers. They could do marketing. I could do anything, right? Just browsing all the categories. And it was really interesting actually browsing through all the projects that people were posting and just what other entrepreneurs were doing on the site.
What were the themes at that time when you were browsing and seeing all the other topics that were coming up?
It was a very narrow set of categories back then. Web development, software development, marketing, translation, copywriting, design. There's about 20 different categories roughly at that point in time. But I just thought, this is just amazing. Like as an entrepreneur by myself, trying to think about the new business, right? Because the last company eventually sold to Intel, but at that point in time, it didn't. So I've run it for 6 years, didn't really set the world on fire, did about $2 million of revenue a year. And I thought, gee, I can't, like, all the good people I know to start a company are kind of at my old business. I thought, I feel embarrassed to go back and ask them to say, let's start another company when that one didn't go that well, to be honest. It was still losing money and this, that, the other. And so I thought, this solves a lot of problems for a frustrated entrepreneur. Like I can just sit there and just put my credit card in and just hire people over the internet and get them to do things. And then I realized how inexpensive it was. It was just insane. You can hire someone on the site. I mean, today, all sorts of businesses use us. I mean, NASA uses us. They published a white paper where they looked at their experience over thousands of freelancers. And they said in that paper, they say between 80 and 99%. So some jobs, they pay 1% of what they'd normally pay if they went to someone locally. It's just mental. So I thought to myself, what sort of business should I build with this, right? I thought I can build anything. And I thought, you know what? I actually kind of like this website, Get a Freelancer, right? So I thought I should build a business to compete against Get a Freelancer. So I started my own company called biditout.com.
What was it called?
Biditout.com.
Biditout.com.
Yeah, and I was hiring freelancers off Get a Freelancer to copy Get a Freelancer. So I was doing the software and I was hiring designers to do design and this, that, the other. And after a few weeks, I got a rudimentary site up and running, and I kind of started to understand the dynamics of the space. And then I did a bit of market research, and I discovered there was, I don't know, something like 11 or 12 other businesses doing this.
Like similar type of business model?
Yeah, very, very similar. You had Scriptlance, you had Rent-A-Coder, and so on. And I thought to myself, no one is going to fund me to be number 13 in the space, right? And also I was a little bit impatient because the last business hadn't really lit the world on fire and had taken 6 years to get going. I thought to myself, I kind of need to do things a bit quicker because as any entrepreneur knows, that first $1 million of revenue is the hardest $1 million you'll ever make.
I've heard. I've had a number of entrepreneurs on the show, and a few of them have shared the exact same sentiment.
Yeah, going from 0 to 1 is extremely difficult. Once you've got $1 million in revenue, You can try experimenting with things. You can do A/B testing. You can kind of do MVPs, minimum viable product, launch new features, see if people like them or not. And if they do like them, kind of build upon that. But we're going from zero, like completely untested, particularly in a new category. It can be a lot of work and a lot of energy. It's kind of like boiling the ocean, right? You've got to put so much energy into the effort to change consumer behavior, to try something new, that you literally have to boil the ocean in terms of the amount of energy you're putting, which is very tiring.
So from that point, how are you marketing the platform? How are you advertising? Because any type of marketplace, the way that it becomes successful is by having more and more users, more and more options. But how do you get started from 0 to 1? I know it's challenging in a lot of businesses, but particularly in a business that relies on network and the growth of network so much.
I cheated.
How did you cheat?
I bought Get a Freelancer. So I kind of went out there, did a bit of research, realized I was number 13. And I thought, well, no one's going to fund me to be number 13. I need to get there quicker. So I went and started approaching all these small marketplaces because no one had really set the world on fire. You had all these little small businesses. And some of them have been around since 1999. So some have been around for about almost 10 years. But you got to remember the proposition of getting someone to do a job for you online
was still very new.
It was not just new, but it was actually very hard to do it in the 90s. So in 1999, the way the business model worked would be there was no internet in emerging markets. So the internet only really started going to India in a big way in the mid-2000s, mid-2004, 2005, really in a big way. So you had no internet really in the Philippines, no internet in Bangladesh, no internet in Indonesia. It was all very, very new. Probably a bit weird for some of the listeners who are younger to understand this. And so really the proposition was you could hire a freelancer in America or Australia to do the job for you. But the internet was really slow. You couldn't really transfer files. You had to meet up in person and swap a CD-ROM or a zip disk in order to, so really you're hiring the same person you would hire normally, but just doing it through a web page, but you have to go and meet them in person anyway for a bunch of things like swapping files or what have you. So it wasn't really the proposition now where anyone in the world can do it for you and everything happens over the internet. It was very clunky. It wasn't really until the mid-2000s and really 2007, 2008 when I got going was really when the whole thing happened. Because 2007, I think there were about 8 million people on the internet in the Philippines. 2008, there were 35 million, and they all had Facebook accounts. So the internet was really taking off in emerging markets at that time and really enabling, and also internet was getting faster and so on. So I contacted a bunch of these sites and I said, do you want to sell to me? And a few of them said, yep, we're kind of interested. And I went to anyone that hadn't raised any venture capital because obviously once the venture capitalists come in there, it's impossible. And ironically, the one that had the most users and the most traffic.
They hadn't had any venture capital.
Correct. And it was Get a Freelancer. It was the one I found. And the reason why I found it is because they had the best SEO, search engine optimization. And so they got the most traffic. And I actually found Get a Freelancer through SEO. So I spoke to the guy and I said, hey, are you interested in selling? And he said, maybe. And I said, well, how much do you want? And he told me a certain price. And I said, okay, I didn't actually have the money. I didn't have any money to buy it. But I said, what I'll do is I will, I've got a bunch of people who potentially will back me in Australia, which I didn't. And I said, I'll put a contract in place where I will get you the money that you want for this business, I think within 45 days. And if I can't get the money together, I'll help you sell it to someone else for a higher price. So for that, it was kind of win-win. So I kind of got a contract in place to lock in a certain amount of time to raise the money to buy it. And otherwise I had to go figure out something else. So then
you're on the hook for finding someone else to sell the business too.
Well, I was happy to do that. So anyway, I was hustling, and it took me actually a bit longer than 45 days. It actually took a fair bit longer. He was a bit flexible with the timing because he saw I was out there trying to get the money together. And long story cut short, but I raised the money, which I think was about $1.5 million US, and I bought the business, and then I just fixed it up. Like for a start, the first thing I did actually was pretty funny. It was, I talked about how it was a very ugly looking website. It was actually designed by a bunch of Ukrainians, and it was all kind of grey and horrible and very Soviet style. I don't know, very, very utilitarian. And I just had a hotshot designer friend who was Australian who had gone to New York, and he kind of was all kind of hip with the latest, whatever. And he just designed for me just a new skin to put on the site. So I did that. And the other thing I did at the same time, which was interesting, and I encourage everyone to do it if you've got an internet business, is I built a dashboard. So I just wrote a little script using some open source software. It's called GNU Plot. It just plots graphs for you. There's better stuff for doing that now probably. But and it just said, it just had little graphs, like an hourly graph, a daily graph, a weekly graph, how many signups, how many people are posting projects, how much revenue I'm making, et cetera. And I had these graphs plotting. And I'll never forget this because the second I changed the graphics and it looked like it was actually modern, well, wasn't that great. Actually, if you go back in the Wayback Machine and look at it, it was actually horrible. But it was a lot better than it was. The graphs, I woke up the next morning, the revenue doubled overnight. Literally overnight from just fixing up the graphics and making a better user experience, right? So it went from making $1 million a year to $2 million a year. And of course, that is huge, right?
Yeah, that's tremendous. Yeah, I mean, like user experience is not, like I'm not overplaying the simplicity of it, but just by changing the graphics of the site, receiving that type of growth is tremendous.
Let me tell you, there are a lot of businesses out there that succeed or fail on their design and user experience, right? Yeah. When Airbnb came out, there was a lot of sites out there where you could find a vacation rental. They didn't come up with a category. There was other sites out that did it. But that user experience, and let me tell you, after 15 years of running Freelancer, it's that last 5% of product polish and product effort that makes all the money, right? You can launch MVPs. That's fine. You want to try something new, launch a minimum viable product and test out the market and do that quickly and see if customers come and give you traction, right? Quite often people launch what I call MUPs, which is minimum unviable product, right? Where actually it's so poor, you can't actually get that minimum sort of experience.
To even test out or validate an idea.
Yeah, but once you validate the idea, you've got to polish the product. What I've realized from many, this whole philosophy that Mark Zuckerberg came up with, which is move fast and break things, that is actually horrible. Like, because what happens is you break everything, right? And putting the attention and the care and the detail into a product and just iterating such that they're not just no bugs, not just no visual glitches or what have you, because the human eye is very good at picking up that sort of stuff. But you need to do it, keep iterating and testing yourself. And this is one thing that Mel does from Canva. I'm friends with Mel, is they don't release a product until they test internally. And then when they're brave enough, they'll give it to Mel. She'll sit down and she'll play with it until it gets better and better and better and better. And then any moment that she has a little bit of cognitive overhead where she goes, oh, that's a bit unclear what happens there, she will just iterate with the product developers and the engineers until they get it fixed. And then what happens is a funny thing happens in that last 5% of effort and polish, you cross the uncanny valley. So you cross a point in time where it goes from, okay, I've got to figure out what I'm doing here, where am I, what do I click on, et cetera, to, wow, that's really simple and easy and delightful. And then they watch user testing videos. They kind of there's a site, for example, called usertesting.com, and you can get a bunch of random people on the internet to test your product out, right? And they just watch those videos. We do that with a thing called Hotjar. And you can just see where people move the cursor and when they pause. And you can also request them to talk and provide a monologue while they're looking at your site. But there's that last 5% where all the money is made.
Wow.
It is literally and that last 5% actually ends up taking probably half the time because you just have to iterate. But when you talk to engineers, software developers, and they say, oh yeah, it'll be ready next week, right? And of course, it's never ready next week. It always drags on. But that's when it really starts. That's if you really, really focus then on just grinding away anything that gives you a hesitation or what have you, there is a magical moment where you just get confused. And it took me a long time to figure that out on Freelancer. And there's moments now where, for example, I've got a big OLED monitor at home. Whatever. There's moments where I just get confused and I think I'm on Twitter or I think I'm on Facebook because we've managed to get the product so good that I kind of get confused and my brain starts crossing the uncanny valley in terms of the product quality. The human brain can just pick up little glitches, little things that are inconsistent all the time. It's very good at doing that. So anyway, so long story cut short, I improved the graphics and then I just talked, literally all I did, it was just myself. So
this is what I was just about to ask you. When you bought the business, you bought the platform, but you were just the only employee when you started out.
That was just me. I had one customer service agent in the Philippines. So back then, the site was the 5,000th biggest website in the world. It had 500,000 users. It was doing $1 million of revenue, and it was slightly profitable, but not very much. The second I had changed the graphics, all of a sudden it's wildly profitable because it's doing $2 million in revenue. I had one customer support agent in the Philippines, Melody, who was doing support for 500,000 people. And she's good at support, but there was a lot of people to do customer support for. And there was sort of 3 contract freelance developers in Ukraine that were kind of doing stuff as a programming on the site, and that was it. So it was just myself at home. I had the cats walking around on the desk and that sort of thing, which I'm sure many of your listeners are trying to start a business in their kind of office and what have you, at the back of their house or in the garage or so on. The one thing to remember is all big ideas, all big businesses start from a crazy idea, right? And it's funny, if you go back in time and you look at the founding team of, say, Microsoft or PayPal, and I know some of the PayPal guys, one of the guys was in my class at Stanford, or you look at the first version of someone's product, it's a crappy looking product. It's a crappy looking team. You're in a crappy looking office. You look at Bezos in the early days. It was literally a door, I think, that they kind of propped up.
It's quite a famous photo. It's like well published on the internet.
Yeah,
where it's like if you ever feeling unmotivated, look at Jeff when he started in the office with like the hung up sign that looks like it had been drawn on.
Yeah, and there was a big thing at Amazon for a while. You had to assemble your own desk when you came in to kind of give you that sort of hustle sort of
founder's mentality.
Founder mentality, yeah. But every product starts looking pretty poor. Every product launch at the very beginning, kind of has a disaster story behind it. Every team looks a bit, funny looking. Every office, original office looks a bit funny. But I tell you what, many of the people probably listening to this, if you look around at kind of your office, your product, your whatever, I'm telling you, it's going to be a hell of a lot better than the early days of, the first LinkedIn, the first Facebook, the first Amazon. I saw a picture of the first version of Seek this week. It looked horrible, right? I'm pretty sure your product's a little bit better. I'm pretty sure your team looks a little bit better. I'm pretty sure your office looks a little bit better. And you just iterate. So the way I iterated was I simply just talked to the customers and said, what bugs do you want us to fix next, or what features do you want to launch next? And I just did that. I just found all the problems. Anyone complained about a problem, I just fixed it. And just iterated. And guess what? When you fix problems, the revenue goes up because the friction gets removed. And that's all I did. I just sat there looking at my little dashboard that I made of users and projects and revenue. And over time, that's built out. So today we've got 40,000 graphs in real time. And actually in my company.
You've got 40,000 graphs that you review in real time.
We don't review all of them. What I do actually is every morning we've got an email that goes out to the entire company called Daily Stats. And it rotates through all everyone in the company, no matter what role you're in, has to have a job where you write up the daily stats and you kind of look at the graphs and you kind of say, this is what happened overnight. And more importantly, why did it happen? And that goes to everyone. It builds literacy in understanding the numbers and analytics and so forth.
Yeah, so important in empowering everyone to truly understand the business and also connect the why of why they're there and what's their mission as part of the entire organization.
Yeah, and actually, I'll tell you a funny story about this actually, because we do that every day, and then every Friday, every single team in the company sends an email to every other person in the company with kind of what they did for the week and what worked and what didn't work, et cetera, and so on. And in fact, some of the teams are being kind of cheeky now because what they've done is they've got an AI agent that sits in all their stand-ups in the morning, the daily stand-ups, and kind of taps into their email. And they're automatically generating these reports now using AI. And it's quite funny because sometimes they say, do it with a Halloween theme, and they'll have like a spooky report, or do it with an Aussie theme, and they'll kind of, the report will be written with an Aussie ochre over the top, sort of accent, et cetera. But a lot of these things get generated automatically now. So that's pretty cool. And you can get AI now to look at your graphs and suggest stuff as well.
Yeah, which is fantastic because wherever it can take over, as long as it's extracting insights and you're not getting too much generalized outputs, but it's genuinely adding value and the teams are having fun with it and putting in their own creativity, that's fantastic.
The productivity is going through the roof. So, yeah, as I kind of lifted the revenue in the business and it went up, I kind of thought to myself, you know what? I've got a bit more cash in the bank now, and I actually know how much this other small competitor wanted for their business, because when I went around asking who wants to sell to me, a bunch of people said, yeah, I'm interested. There's kind of much money I want, and here's my financials and so forth. So I, bought website number 8 in the space, then number 7, number 6, number 5, number 4, number 3. I just started buying everything.
Right. So you grew through true acquisition strategy within the space to really start becoming the biggest platform, broadest capabilities, most amount of jobs, like immediately you started capitalizing on the network effect.
That's right. That's why we have today 77 million users on the platform, because I just consolidated everything. Everything was a generalist platform in freelancing. Crowdsourcing was out there. I bought pretty much. I've actually lost count of the number. It's like 27 or 29 businesses I bought now, and I've merged them in and shut them down. Right, so you just merge in the business models are the same. You post a job, people bid on it, you pay through the site, you get feedback and reviews. I'd merge in the user profiles and consolidate them. So if you had an account on Get a Freelancer and on Scriptlance, I'd merge in the profiles, I'd merge in the feedback, merge in all the customers, merge in all the messaging, etc., and so on. Harmonize the business models and shut down the competitor. And in fact, if you have a marketplace, like an online marketplace, you kind of have to buy them all, right, and merge them all together to get the scale. And it's actually a very, very good strategy because it's generally, if you do it smart, it's generally cheaper than using paid advertising to buy the customers off Google effectively, right? And you kill a competitor, right? So if you take too long and you don't do that, you end up in a situation like Groupon. By the time the Groupon left the United States, Rocket Internet, the clone machine, had cloned it all over the world in every single country. And they had a real problem going country to country to country because it had been cloned everywhere. I mean, Uber kind of had that problem in China and Asia, where by the time Uber got going, you already had Didi and you had Grab and
they came to the market.
And so it was just too hard to break into those markets because they'd already raised venture capital or got market traction and so on. So I did that very, very quickly. I almost got them all. But not quite. But I got enough so that by far now we have the largest workforce in the world with 77 million people. I think the closest competitor, last time I saw them advertising online, they had about 18 million users, but I presume they're probably about 30 or so million now, but that's how I got the scale. And then that scale has allowed us to do pretty unique things. It's allowed us to create an enterprise division. So we do stuff now for NASA. In fact, I was just on a global town hall a few minutes ago back in the office where on Fridays I get in front of the entire company and there's a few presentations from various people and then they can't ask me anything. And, we've won a task order, for example, this week. We've done a lot of work with NASA, but for the Artemis 2 mission, which I think is you've got Orion, you've got Artemis. I think Artemis is the one to the moon, I'm not sure. There's a zero gravity indicator that they want to build, which is a certain device, and we're going to be building it on the platform. And we've done it.
That is incredible. That is so cool.
Yeah,
that's getting outsourced to
that's right.
the platform, and anyone can bid for the project.
Mm-hmm.
Truly create these revolutionary technologies.
That's right. I mean, because we've got 77 million people, we've got all the universities on there. We've got all the hobbyists. We've got all the research institutes. We've got all the people who are kind of the academics and so forth. And I mean, for NASA, we've done things now like we designed the smartwatch the astronauts use in the space station. We did the heads-up display for the underwater space walk training. We won one recently, which was when the moon mission happens and the astronauts actually step out and they're on the moon's surface, there are times where the sky is obscured and they need to be able to do navigation when they're like deep in a crater and they have got a very partial visualization of the sky. And in fact, the NASA, we found the world's origami experts to figure out how to fold radiation shielding for deep space missions in a very efficient way. That was cool having those origami experts try all that. The NASA program has been so successful now, they've kind of upscaled it a few times, but now they're the center of excellence for the whole of US government. So through NASA, we've done stuff with the National Institute of Health. So for example, the biggest project we have on Freelancer now, you might typically think of Freelancer style projects as being fairly small, web design, app design, and so forth. The average job on our site is about $258. And for that, you get about $2,000 worth of work done, because of the wage arbitrage. But the biggest project we have running right now is $10 million, which is for gene editing in the central nervous system of humans with NASA, the National Institute of Health. And we're about a third of the way through awarding the prize money for that so far.
Yeah, wow, that's phenomenal. I mean, all of those use cases are so exciting. They are so cool, and we're truly solving like at the leading edge of innovation where we're at with technology, and they're leveraging the platform to do that. And when I initially thought of Freelancer, I like thought of it as a consumer platform. And I heard you talking about on another show that you were on, NASA being one of your largest kind of customers that contract with the platform. That's incredible. Do you think like the business world is changing in the way that enterprises will more and more start to utilize platforms in an outsourcing type model using
absolutely
Freelancer as an example to democratize access to a lot of work that you don't need necessarily, like a little bit controversial, but you don't necessarily need contracted full-time employees for?
That's right. Well, there's a few things here. So we took the NASA program that we have. We've now turned it into our Moonshot Innovation Challenge program. We've made it available to all the corporates around the world. So you could have a problem, for example, you're a potato chip company and you want to figure out how do I make the chips last longer in a bag. Now, in a lot of large organizations and a lot of government organizations, you've got inertia. Like it's very hard to get entrepreneurs to come up with new products, new ventures, new services. It's very, very difficult for whatever reason. Under this program, you can tap into all the world's service providers and you can get breakthrough innovation done. So, we did something recently with the Australian Space Agency. We designed for the EL02 mission, which is going to put a lunar rover on the moon for Australia. We designed the dipper. That's the arm that's going to basically scoop things out of the surface of the moon, and we did a global competition for that. We've done things for the Department of Commerce, Department of Manufacturing, Department of Energy, CDC, NIST. For the National Institute of Standards and Technology, we did a Moonshot Innovation Challenge for solving the problem of first responders going into emergency situations. So what happens now is there's a bombing or an earthquake or what have you. They pull in a bunch of 40-foot shipping containers and drop them down. They set up a command center. And so when the paramedics and the police and the fire or what have you, National Guard go into a emergency situation, at the moment it's all over radios. It's a bit of a mess. They run a command center. They've got whiteboards. They've got pens, paper, and it's uncoordinated. They put up a challenge, and I think it was like $1 million, I'm pretty sure. Or it might have been $2 million, but I think it's $1 million. And what we did is we got all teams around the world to come in and build a next generation AR, VR heads-up displays. So what actually happens is you can put on a headset. It's like Minority Report. Suddenly you can see through all the cameras in the building. So that will get all the sensor fusion. You can see through the body cams of the first responders going in. You can see the vital signs of the first responders, if they're fighting a fire or what have you. And all the note-taking, everything it's all coordinated into a CRM. And you get like this command post now that's a digital command post, which helps the first responders go in. So as part of this Moonshot Innovation Challenge, we do the whole program development. So we do things like the challenge design. In that particular circumstance, we did 2 rounds of live testing in Colorado, where we got first responders in, we got crisis actors in. They pretended they were all bombing victims.
Did a simulation,
a live simulation where the paramedics all came in, fire brigade came in, and we set the command center, and there's all this hardware and software that was deployed, and it's pretty crazy. And we do all of that, all the challenge design, all the running of the program, et cetera, and so on. And quite often these end up with commercial outcomes. In this case, there were a bunch of contracts were signed for commercial supply of equipment to basically a whole range of first responders. So that was pretty crazy. So we do all of that. The other thing we do is because we have such scale, like you can do it. We've drawn these maps, for example, where you geolocate the users, and because there's 77 million around the world, you literally get this map of the world where you don't have to draw the countries. You actually know where the countries are. You know where the cities are. You know where the towns are, because literally anywhere there's electricity and the internet, there's people, right? And because we have that scale, we can do some pretty unique things. So for a global hardware company, we built for them a global surge and white spot capability. So what I mean by that is This particular company has got over 100 subcontractors around the world to do repairs of computer equipment. So you break your laptop, or you break your printer, or you break your computer, or you break your server. You go to their website, you file a request for support. Maybe it's a warranty claim or not. And they've got 100 and something subcontractors around the world that will come out and repair your computer and laptop and printer. The problem is those 100 subcontractors can't service every area. So there are things called white spots. There's service coverage areas. For example, in Australia, you can imagine there's a lot of coverage areas where a repairman won't go out and actually repair your laptop for you because it's in the middle of nowhere. So because we've got freelancers everywhere with all the skill sets, we managed to build that coverage. And then we also built a surge capability. So what that meant is some countries around the world, you have seasonality in terms of needing people to do things. So in India, they have monsoons. And in monsoons, people break more laptops because there's more water around the place. So that there's more call-outs. The subcontractors had a problem. They can't scale up and scale down so easily seasonally because you've got to have full-time employees, have them on the payroll. You don't need them for half the year, but then sometimes the year you do need them, right?
Yeah, with an incredibly short-term surge in demand.
That's right. So we built all that. So we built a global field services, white spot and surge capability. We've got we built it across 5 countries, 49 cities, and so forth. But we can do that for anything. We could do that for maintaining outdoor radio equipment, or we did some work for Nokia converting 4G to 5G. So 4G radio equipment, you need a telecoms engineer. It's very expensive. They've got to come out, install a base station, and it's all highly specialized. You've got to pay for travel time and lodging potentially, and so on. Going to 5G, the base stations are more like a Wi-Fi access point, and kind of a handyman can put it in rather than a telecoms engineer. So for them, we did some work where we had handymen go out there and install this equipment, and we've got handymen everywhere in the world, as you can imagine, right? So we can do all those sorts of cool things across a range of different areas. So we call that now Global Fleet. So it's Freelancer Global Fleet. And we have a whole operations center, and we can do it for anything. Right?
Yeah, really the applications are limitless.
That's right. And on Freelancer, you can access that yourself, either through the site itself or programmatically through our API. So hypothetically, you might want to come up with, a global lawnmower company. And what we do is we mow people's lawns, right? And of course, you can imagine with 77 million people, we've got people who can mow lawns anywhere in the world, right? But you could throw up your own website. You could say we're the Uber of lawn mowing, and then through the API tapping into the global database, you could post a job saying, if someone comes into your site and says, "Hey, I need someone to mow my lawns," you go, "No problem." Whatever. They post a job into our marketplace. People bid on the job. You could, through software, you could kind of select them, award them, et cetera, and so forth. And you could basically build an Uber for lawn mowing, right? Or anything.
That's so cool, and it fits perfectly into the segment that I wanted to run with you. So one of the most common, if not the most common question I get from listeners to the show, because often I'll have entrepreneurs, athletes, business executives talk about becoming successful in their journeys, is people come to me and they're sharing these ideas or these businesses they want to start, and all the things they're thinking about, but all the ideas. And so what I wanted to do was actually share an idea with you. Okay. And if you can talk me through how you might, or how someone might use Freelancer to build a business, scale the business, and roughly how long that might take and how much it might cost.
Okay, go for it.
All right. First idea, a personalized meal subscription service for busy professionals.
Okay. Well, there's a few things here. The first thing you got to do is you got to come up with a name for the business, right? And you can use Freelancer to do that. So what I'll do there would be the most important thing with selecting a name is you got to have the domain name free, right? Because you don't want to have a weird, sounding domain name. So you can.
And when you say you've got to have the domain name free, do you mean the .com? Like the .com's got to be available.
You want to have .com.
Yeah.
Right. It's the best street in the city. You want to have a house on the best street. All these .ly and the Bitly, for example, bit.ly or whatever. ly is a Libyan. Is the Libyan domain name. .co is Colombia, right? So you want .com.
Yeah,
right?
I've seen, the other ones I've seen come up quite often are .io or even now .ai that are starting to become more and more popular.
I think AI is Antigua and IO is the Indian Ocean. So they're it looks kind of nice, but you kind of want to have a .com. Although I actually own also escrow.com. So I own the biggest online escrow company in the world. We do $1 billion of payments through that. And we sell about $600 million of domain names a year. So I sold, when Facebook just changed its name to meta.com, we sold them meta.com through our payment system. So we didn't sell the domain, but we handled the transaction. So we did that. We sold Instagram.com to Instagram. We sold Snapchat.com to Snapchat in the early days. We sold SpaceX.com to SpaceX. We did the transaction where we sold Chat.com to HubSpot, and they just resold it to OpenAI.
Yeah, I saw a post on that actually.
That was public actually. It was $15 million the transaction we did. And then that's been on sold. I think it sold between 20 and 30. It's being a bit cryptic in terms of how much you sold it for. But yeah, that was...
So .com. .com's the way to go.
.com. And let me tell you, a good .com domain name now can be worth... We regularly do 10, $20 million sales of a good name. So if you've got what I call the canonical name, so... if you've got livestock.com for the livestock industry, or you've got machinery.com for the machinery industry, or what have you, those names now go for $10, $20 million or more, with $30 million. I know of one transaction that's been a while and set up. It's an incredibly good name where they're talking $100 million US.
But is it difficult nowadays? Just because
they're all gone. But some people listening may be sitting on one in their portfolio that they registered a long time ago.
Not realizing.
So if you do have a good domain name, go in there and check. And if you want to find someone who can help monetize that for you and sell it for you, you can contact us at escrow.com, and we know all the brokers around the world, because some people registered these names back in the late 90s, early 2000s, and might not realize, but they might have $1 million domain sitting in their account. They're just paying $10 a year for the registration fee. But anyway, you need a good name. So I'd run a contest on the site, maybe pay $30. And the contest, I would use the sealed upgrade so no one could see what the entries are. And you would say in the contest, come up with a name for me, make sure the domain name is free for the .com at the same time. Otherwise, I won't award it to you. And so you just go to Freelancer, you type in a brainstorming contest, come up with a name, make sure the domain's available, make sure you use the sealed upgrade because you can't let everyone see. And then before you award the prize, go and register the domain and then award the prize, pay the person $30. So that pretty quickly within 48 hours, you'll get a whole bunch of really interesting suggestions for that. You then need to get some branding for it. So you got to make a logo. So you just post a contest for, I don't know, $20, $30, and you put in what you like. And using a contest, on average, you get 400 entries now around the world, which is insane. And you say, I like this, I don't like this, change the colors, change the fonts, what have you, and so on. You can upload some, like a mood board. You can upload some things you do like, logos you do like, for example, or designs you like, and so forth. Very iterative, and people around the world will compete for that. Now, a website would probably cost you anywhere from, depends how complex you want it, but you could probably get something pretty basic up for a few $100, $200-$300 to get going with a minimum viable product, maybe a couple $1,000s for something a little bit more robust. But what I would do as well is I'd use AI and to make the meal plan super interesting and exciting and relevant and highly tailored, I would make an AI agent to deliver the meal plan. Now, what's an AI agent? It's basically AI that will do the job of a person, in this case, a nutritionist or a dietitian or what have you. And they can interface with customers over chat or over a phone call. And they've even got it now working for streaming video. So you can jump on a Zoom call or something rather with the AI agent and talk to it. And it's actually pretty realistic and pretty scary. But you can get AI agents built for very inexpensive amounts. Now, I think this is going to be a transformational point in time in businesses in the next 12 months where every business in the world is going to want to do this. So if you heard it here first, let me tell you, you can get a jump on this.
This is like the idea you share with your mum in the late 90s.
Yeah, I'm telling you right now,
this is the time.
Every business in the world will do this in the next year to 2 years.
Get onto AI agents.
So let me just backtrack a little bit. So there's been two transformational moments in businesses in the last couple of decades with technology. The first was the internet went mainstream. Everyone wanted to be an internet business, set up a website, sell over the internet. Basically now, if you have a business, you have to have a website. That led to a whole category called web development. You would get one-man bands to build your websites, small agencies, big agencies, Deloitte, right? And we aggregate all of those on Freelancer, right? So everyone went and got websites built. And that's about 30% of the volume going through Freelancer right now is website development, right? Then the next big revolution that was the dot-com boom that started all of that. Then the next big revolution was the smartphone wars. iPhone and Android. Everyone needed an app, right? Now, not as many people needed apps as websites. It turns out we figured out over time how to get websites looking good on mobile phones. Today, it's about 16% of the work we do is app development.
Yeah,
right?
app development.
Web development, app development. Now it's coming is AI development. And so this is an agent that will do something for you. And I'll give you a classic example of two agents that everyone's going to want. They'll take over the world. One agent just simply answers the phone and does customer support, right? The other agent will answer the phone, potentially make a booking, so check a calendar and then make a booking in the calendar, or take a credit card, take a payment, put a booking, or sell an item, sell a product, for example, take an order, right? Every business in the world pretty much has someone that answers the phones and takes a booking or an order or reservation.
Does some sort of customer service.
And that probably costs roughly around $45,000 per year, no matter where you are in the world, right, in the West, right? So if in the US, UK, Canada, Australia, whatever, a hairdresser has someone answering the phones, a restaurant, a hotel, businesses to take orders or do customer support and so forth. You can get AI development done now for the same budget as a website or an app, right? You don't need PhDs in machine learning or whatever to do it for you. It's literally just software engineers stitching together the infrastructure that exists at the moment to make these agents, right? And I can do one for you live now.
Let's do it. Let's see a live demo as we go through this example.
So what I can do is you tell me what you like. We're actually going to do this live. I'm going to have to, hopefully it will work. You tell me what you want this AI agent to do. So I presume what we're going to do is we'll get someone. It will be someone calling up, and they will be talking to a nutritionist or a dietitian or a meal planner.
Yeah.
And you run through what you want them to do. So first of all, what's their name going to be of the agent?
All right. So we've got to give the agent a name.
Yeah.
Let's call the agent Emily.
Emily. Okay. And so I'm literally, what I'm doing is I'm writing here effectively a prompt. So if people have used ChatGPT, I'm literally just writing a prompt that you put into ChatGPT where you're getting the AI to role play, right? So I'm going to write, you are Emily, and what do I write? Like a dietitian and nutritionist or something else?
No, well, like a nutritionist that will help busy professionals tailor or curate a personalized meal plan for we'll give the brand a name.
Let me just type this. Okay. You are a nutritionist who what?
Is helping busy professionals
to
create personalized meal options.
Meal options and meal plans.
Meal plans.
Okay, meal plans, yep.
And then do we just have to give it a brand name for our brand?
What's it called? For
we'll call it leafy greens.
Leafy greens.
Yeah, definitely not leaky. But leafy greens.
Leafy greens. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do, just 1 second, is I've got to just edit down here. So it's Emily from, I've got to just put the agent's name in again. So it's Emily from Leafy. We're doing this live, guys.
I'm very excited. Am I going to be talking to Emily?
Yes, you will be talking to Emily. Okay, so what sort of style do you want them to be talking? So I've got it here by default. I've got be conversational, use everyday language to create a cozy and friendly vibe, but I can change that to anything. How do you want them to communicate? What sort of thing?
Yeah, warm, friendly. And I like that. Yeah, I like that you've got conversational because I want it to be as natural as possible.
Conversational, warm and friendly. Okay. Use everyday language. Is that fine?
Use everyday language. Yeah.
Okay, great. Now, the first thing when they answer the phone, I've got like a default template here says ask if there's a good time to talk. Okay. If not, call a certain function to hang up and say they'll call back later. Okay. What's the first question you want to ask?
Oh, to ask the user. So I guess if I'm calling, first would be...
What are your goals for your meal plan, or?
Yeah, tell me about goals. That's a good one to start with. Then definitely a question around any specific dietary requirements.
Okay, let me put this in here. Ask if they have any specific dietary requirements.
Yeah,
okay.
And then frequency, because you want to know how many times a week and for what meals does somebody want to receive.
How many times a week and for what meals?
Yeah, so breakfast, lunch or dinner or snacks.
People want the plan for, e.g. breakfast. Breakfast. I was trying to use the fast typing. Breakfast.
Lunch or dinner.
Lunch.
We can just leave it at that.
Dinner.
And then the last one is cost, because we want to get a good understanding and gather that information before recommending a meal plan.
5, ask what their budget is.
Perfect.
Okay. And I just have to renumber that last point. Okay. Done. Hopefully this will work. I've just literally done it live here on the show, so this is definitely a live thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to call up now and we're going to see if this works.
Hello, I'm Emily from Leafy Greens. Is this a good time to talk?
Hi, Emily. This is a great time to talk.
Great. I'm glad to hear that. Let's get started on creating your personalized meal plan. What are your goals for this meal plan? Are you looking to lose weight, gain muscle, eat healthier, or something else?
I'm looking to gain muscle and eat healthier.
That sounds like a fantastic goal. Do you have any specific dietary requirements or preferences that we should keep in mind while creating your meal plan?
I just don't like super chili food. I'm good with everything else.
Got it. We'll make sure to keep things mild and flavorful without the extra heat. How many times a week and for which meals would you like the plan? Are you thinking about breakfast, lunch, dinner, or all of them?
I want the plan for 5 days a week, so from Monday to Friday, and for dinner.
Perfect. We'll focus on creating delicious and nutritious dinners for you from Monday to Friday. What's your budget for the meal plan? This will help us tailor the ingredients and recipes to fit your needs.
I don't want to spend more than $250.
Great. We'll make sure to keep everything within your budget of $250. Do you have any questions or anything else you'd like to discuss about your meal plan?
When will you send the plan to me, and how will you send it to me?
I don't have the exact details on when and how the meal plan will be sent to you, but typically we aim to deliver it within a few days via email. Is there anything else you'd like to know or ask about?
No, that's all. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. I'm glad I could help. We'll get started on your meal plan and have it to you soon. Have a wonderful day.
That was brilliant.
Yeah. So obviously I just did that live. You want a freelancer because the freelancer can help plug it into your website and get that working, and potentially into your shopping cart software or whatever you've got in your backhand. But I mean, I just did that live. So you can get someone to do this for a couple $100 to a couple $1,000. So the same budget for a website or for an app. And that you can tell every business in the world is going to want that. So you heard it here first. This is going to be the big thing.
That is so
right?
cool. We'll spotlight this for sure, because that was completely live. You put in a few of the prompts that we just made up on the spot, and really conversational. I spoke fairly informal, and everything that you had inputted a prompt for, the agent was able to respond with in a really nice, friendly tone.
Yeah, so it's pretty insane. So you can imagine that doing customer support. Imagine that. Doing administrative stuff like preparing meal plans. Imagine that taking orders, and imagine that doing outbound sales, calling people up, or doing quality assurance calls. Like, for example, I gave the example of a laptop being repaired. Well, someone calls up saying, well, Frank came by and repaired your laptop the other day. How was it? The service? Do you have 5 minutes to talk about it? Right. So every business in the world is going to want this. I'm telling you, every business. Now, it hasn't really come into the mainstream consciousness yet because people, they see AI, they play with Midjourney or GPT or what have you, but they haven't seen and know it's accessible. But you can get this done Literally, I just typed it in there. There was a template that just had a basic voice agent template, like being nice, conversational, what have you. And I just kind of filled in the blanks with what you wanted. But this is going to go crazy, right? Absolutely crazy. And by the way, Emily can talk in any language do you speak a different language other than English?
Yeah, I do. I can speak Serbian as well.
Should we do it in Serbian?
Oh, I'm like, let's try.
No, I don't have to do anything. Just switch. Just say, can you please speak in Serbian?
All right, let's do it.
Hello, I'm Emily from Leafy Greens. Is this a good time to talk?
Hi, Emily. Can you please switch and speak to me in Serbian?
I'm really sorry, but I can only communicate in English.
Okay.
Damn.
Well,
Feel free to ask.
Damn.
we'll just talk in Serbian and see if she responds.
Ciao, Emily. Kako si?
Sounds like you might be busy right now.
Okay. She's being grumpy, but you can actually get that working. Obviously, this is live, so that it wasn't pre-done.
No, but that is brilliant.
But
That's so exciting. And even from a cost perspective, for people that have started experimenting, they're probably used to like the very low cost it is to even just chat with these applications. Getting a freelancer to develop something like an AI agent in this shape or form, how much does that cost?
Well, as I said, I mean, with a budget of a few $1,000s, like literally off the back of a credit card, you can pretty much build any sort of internet business now, at least to get a minimum viable product.
So accessible.
So it's pretty crazy. We can do brand design, logo design, all the graphics. We can do the site, the platform, the software development, the AI agents, the marketing campaigns. Build a virtual support team for you, and that's where it's going to go. Like I'm pretty sure by the end of next year on Freelancer, you won't necessarily need to go, I want to build a website, but you'll go to Freelancer and go, I want to build a business. So when you post your project, it will be, I want to start Leafy Greens. It's going to be a meal plan business. Can you get me everything I need to launch this business by December 1st? And then we will automatically figure out for you, you need a website, we need apps for these following platforms, we need to have a bunch of content on the site.
And you need a way to market the product and the service.
There'll be a launch marketing, there'll be a social media set of assets that we make for you automatically, there'll be a marketing campaign we make for you automatically, we'll build a virtual customer support team for you automatically, and all of that will be structured and all these projects will go off at the same time and we'll have it all built for you. That is
revolutionary.
Yeah, that's where it's going. And we'll be able to, but before the end of next year, we'll be able to do that for you.
Yeah, unbelievably cool. I think by far one of the most exciting updates that we've shared on the show for listeners. And just at the time, as the technology is starting to develop and we'll be ready very, very quickly.
There's been a few points in time. I'm old enough to remember a few points in time in the world where one day went forward and the world changed forever, right? So I remember before mobile phones, after mobile phones, there was like a point in time where no one had a mobile phone. You had to go, if you met someone out and you wanted to kind of meet them for, in the next week, say, I'll meet you on Friday down at this bar.
And you hope they showed up.
They showed up. and then you go sit in the town hall steps waiting for them. They wouldn't show up and you'd be waiting awkwardly looking at your watch. Do I call them on the phone booth or whatever like that? And then I went from that to actually having mobile phones and the world just changed. I remember even with mobile phones, there was before text messages, after text messages. Like when phones came out, no one used text message originally. And one weekend, Optus goes, it's free text messaging. And literally the next week, everyone's text messaging, right? Before internet, after the internet, right? And so on. And this is the next big thing. I'm telling you, this will change everything, and it's happening right now.
Let's talk about AI. Before we get into questions around trends and where it's heading and how that might even intersect in the ways that you've already showed us with a Freelancer platform, this is the first time we're talking about AI on the podcast, and I've heard you do a brilliant job of this on other platforms. Can you give our listeners a quick snapshot of the evolution that's happened in AI, why we're hearing about it everywhere in all sorts of forms, and where we're going to go to from today? I know it's a lot, but like a really quick snapshot to set the scene.
So fundamentally, there's been a breakthrough in artificial intelligence where you can feed AI during a training process large amounts of data, and the AI gets better the more data you feed it. In the past, you couldn't feed it large amounts of data because it would kind of get lost in the training, right? It'd see something here and then, way down the track it would see something else, and it couldn't actually figure out kind of where it was. And that fundamental breakthrough has been a thing that Google invented called the transformer, which allowed it to do this, and also allowed the training to speed up in a fairly big way. But think about like a ChatGPT. At the heart of ChatGPT, it is fundamentally a next word predictor or next letter predictor. So I can type in a question, and it predicts what the next word will be, which is the answer, and the next word, and the next word, and the next word, and the next word, right? And what has happened is you feed the AI a large training set. So, for example, a whole bunch of books, all the content that, that's in the library. You train on that data, and the output would be a conversational chatbot that when you talk to it, it does an okay job. You can tell it comes out from a computer, right? But then when you scale up the training data, scale up the compute, and scale up the cost of doing that training by an order of magnitude. So instead of just all the books in the library, you feed it all the websites on the internet, whatever. All of a sudden, it crosses the uncanny valley and it gets very, very good. And that's kind of, I think, what people have seen with ChatGPT, right? All of a sudden you talk to it and it's, wow, it can hold a conversation. I mean, that when you spoke to Emily just then, that was just effectively ChatGPT like LLM, or large language model you're chatting to. And you scale up again in order of magnitude. You give it even more data. So maybe you give it all the content from movies and everything on YouTube and this, that, the other in terms of the transcriptions and so forth. You give it all the academic publishing that's out there in terms of research papers and so on. And all of a sudden, crazy black magic voodoo sort of stuff starts happening. You train it in, for example, you train it with English language content, but all of a sudden you can talk to it in Serbian. At least we'll get Emily to speak in Serbian at some point. You can, all of a sudden it knows how to manipulate the air conditioning system in this building. Why? Because somewhere in that content, it probably learned enough about how HVAC systems work, right? All of a sudden, it can drive a robotic arm and bounce a pencil on it, right? And this is just from text. This is just from everything it's just read. You haven't trained it in anything specifically for robotics, but it's probably read every textbook out there. It's read every online university course about robotics. It's read all the Reddit forums about it, and all, et cetera, and so forth. And all these abilities start emerging from the models that are the people who program these foundation models. They don't understand how they emerged, and they didn't predict them. They just kind of emerge. For example, ChatGPT doesn't know math. Doesn't know math, step up the training data, step up the compute. It doesn't know math, step it up again. All of a sudden, it can do university math. All of a sudden, it can do, it can top the HSC. It could top the bar exam. It can top tests for creative writing. It can beat doctors in the medical tests, biology tests, zoology tests, astrophysics, you name it, right? So there's an incredible amount of capabilities that are emerging in these models. And it's doing it across all what they call the modalities. So one modality is text, which is the stuff we kind of type in and so forth, which is language, right? It's also doing it with images. So, for example, you've got programs like Midjourney, where you can say, I want a bear riding a bicycle down the street, and it will draw it for you, and in super high fidelity. And it's now starting to happen in video. So you've got these packages now where you say, make me a video, what have you, about this. But where it's going to get to very soon, probably within the next 12 months, is you'll say, Game of Thrones Season 8 was terrible. Please redo Game of Thrones Season 8 for me. And it will produce Game of Thrones Season 8. It might take a few minutes or a few hours to do so, but it'll pop it out the other side. Or redo Game of Thrones, but put me as the lead character. Or do it in space, or as a Western, or a Western in space. And so you're going to get crazy, crazy, crazy times. I mean, Netflix is about to figure out what it feels like to be Wikipedia in the age of ChatGPT, in that everyone will be able to come up with their own fan fiction, et cetera, and so forth.
Personalized experiences.
Personalized experiences, you name it.
Change the plots, change the narratives. Yeah. There's so many possibilities.
Exactly. It's going to go mental, and that's happening everywhere. And so, this is one of the biggest transformations that's happened, from technology in history. We use AI all through our website on Freelancer to create very personalized and intense experiences. So, for example, you come to post a project. In the past, you would have to write your own brief. Now you can just type in a few things or bullet points, and we'll make the brief for you, right? And we'll interrogate you, we'll ask you, questions and multiple choice questions, make it super easy to fill that brief out.
So I tried that yesterday. Yes. When I was telling you just before we started the recording, I went onto the platform for the first time, quickly described what I wanted, a project that I wanted done. The brief was perfect, so easy, didn't have to spend time on that, and fantastic. And then even later, one of the services that I used on your site was I got like a personal recruiter to help me find what freelancer is best for me.
Yep.
Was I talking to an agent?
That was actually a human.
Okay.
But we actually do have AI recruiters in test. At the moment, they're just kind of giving the recruiter suggestions of what to say next, but we'll be able to do very shortly the full recruiter, and on top of that, a project manager experience. So, for example, you go, okay, I want to build leafy greens. Well, the AI will pop up. You won't really know it's AI, but it'll pop up and you either talk to it or you chat with it, and it'll tell you, okay, well, let's talk about what you actually need to do for your business, right? Okay, we need a marketing plan. We need to have a product. You define what the product features are. We've got to figure out the business model. We've got to, have a social media campaign, et cetera, and so forth. And so it will break down for you a series of campaigns. It will then turn that into a bunch of tasks. It will then find freelancers around the world to deliver that for you. It might suggest a mood board. It might go, okay, what do you want the site to look like? Here's an example of a variety of other businesses and what kind of their look and feel. Can you kind of click on the things you do like and we'll create a little mood board for you to kind of direct the freelancers to kind of put this together for you, et cetera, and so on. So I can do all of that. So the other thing we're doing with posting a project, and I just saw a demo of it last week, is when you type in what you want on the brief, it's not just drag in you can drag in a series of documents. For example, you might have a bunch of things you've written in a Word doc, or you might have a PowerPoint presentation or a Canva presentation. You can drag all of that in. You can type in what you want, but you can also talk to it. So you better hit a button, and while you're typing, you can talk, and the AI will sit there and kind of build out the brief and iterate, asking you questions, and you can just interact however you want to interact. It's pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah, it's the multimodal experiences that are really amazing. Like it's really good at responding in text format, but in natural language as well, so it's conversational. But the fact that you can start adding images, adding voice commands, and operating like you would if you were talking to someone in kind of the ideal world to depict what you want to convey or to share feedback, it's really remarkable. And the speed that it does it at is just incredible. Like if I even think of simple applications, because people often talk about AI and things that it's still not as good as humans at, and that's a whole other conversation around AGI.
Yeah.
But if you even think about like things that just a year ago, if someone told you to summarize a 1 hour document, do it in 3 paragraphs and you've got 10 seconds, like impossible. And so like we forget all these applications, we actually start to get very accustomed to what it can do. We adopt them and we're constantly expecting more, even at the rate that it is developing, which is all these applications that you're talking about.
We're going to do something pretty crazy on the site. I don't know if I should mention this or not, but we're going to create an AM talkback radio channel that you can flick on while you're using Freelancer, and 2 radio hosts will be talking about you using Freelancer. So you're like, oh, and here we've got Matt. And
that is so funny.
Matt starting his leafy greens business, and we love entrepreneurs. Yeah. And look, this is so valuable because busy professionals need to have, good meal plans. And they'll be talking while you're doing stuff. And so I posted this project. Now, this is the exciting bit, right? So the bids will come in shortly, and wow, BrightDoc has come in, and we love BrightDoc. Yeah, he's a freelancer. He's been on the platform. Yeah, 440 reviews. Yeah, 4.9 stars. This guy really knows his stuff. And, we've looked through his portfolio and blah, blah, and it would just give you a running
commentary
of
your own journey on the platform.
Journey while using the platform. I've seen a demo of it already. It is mental. So yeah, pretty funny stuff.
That's so exciting. Yeah. And you were talking in this conversation a little earlier, how you've seen AI development start to really increase. I mean, it's hard to estimate just what share of jobs AI-based posts will take, but I'm assuming it's going to be quite large. What are some of the most exciting opportunities you see for
the funny thing is, so far what we see actually, I mean, if you look at history, all technology just creates more work than it destroys. There's certainly disruptive moments where we don't sell ice in the age of refrigerators, But by the same token, cameras didn't put painters out of business, right? Yes, portrait painting isn't as big as it used to be in terms of industry, but the world of art and the things that artists can do, there's a much greater spectrum of ways they can sell their human creativity than there was in the past, right? I'll give you my experience, right? So I've got a support team. I've got support people all around the world in various offices, but I've got a big support operation in Manila, and this is a 24/7 by 365 support team that speaks in 20 languages and so on. I said to these guys a year ago, you guys in the future are going to become, every one of you is going to become an AI engineer. You're going to be writing prompts, for example, just like I did with Emily for you today. You're going to write prompts on for certain roles that will interact with customers. The AI will be doing the tier 1 support, so the immediate first tier support in any language instantly. The AI is going to do responses, but there's a whole bunch of things AI can't do. AI might not be able to access a certain database, or you need to process a payment, or they want to talk to an angry customer and escalate it, right? So your job will come to tier 2 support, so you'll be doing the escalations. But I want you writing prompts, managing the AIs, and curating and QAing the AIs, and then creating new roles, right? So the entire team over there is now have become AI engineers. They're writing these things. It's just like I did for you there, where you go, your name is Frank, and your job is to is a freelancer onboarding specialist. And this is a job I could never economically viably create a role for a person to be an induction expert for a freelancer, because I get 25,000 signups a day, and it'd just be impossible to do. And so the AI agent might be, oh, hi, Mohammed, I see you're from Lahore, Pakistan. You're a web developer. I've looked through your profile. You've got a few spelling mistakes in your description. You should probably fix them up. I have looked at your portfolio. It's pretty good. You say you've got Flutter experience, but I don't see any examples of that in your portfolio. Why don't you upload something? And by the way, there are some things in your portfolio you haven't mentioned in your bio. So why don't we kind of do that? And by the way, while we're here, can I show you the features of the website? And let's walk through them all for you, right? That's a great service. I could never do that with a human. That would just never be economically viable with 25,000 people a day signing up. I can do it with AI. So the entire team over there are managing these agents. They're kind of improving them, et cetera, and so forth. And what we've discovered is the AI is actually creating a lot more work for humans, because the productivity of the AI is so high that it generates more escalations for humans than we did before with the all-human support team. So, for example, there's an agent that the blue tick that you've got on say X or so forth to verify your account.
Yeah, like verified user.
Yeah, that's $99 a year, et cetera, and so forth. A human sales team would do about 100 to 200 reach outs a day and get about 1% to 2% response rate on that, right? The AI does it 50,000 an hour, right? Yeah. But the escalations that come out of the 50,000, they get a 15% response rate. Why? Because the AI is 4 times better quality answers, 4 times longer answers, and 10 times more empathetic. And the empathy is the stuff that immediately stands out. When you look at a support transcript of a human agent versus AI, the AI's got infinite patience. They don't have KPIs for how many tickets a day they've got to do or what have you. Infinite patience. They can infinitely personalize the experience.
So what are the escalations that come from that type of example that create more work?
Maybe I would like to buy something. Can you process a credit card for me? And the AI doesn't have access to that right now. It may be that it needs to access something in the database to change it, and we haven't get the ability of the AI to do that. So, for example, there's can you update my credit card in the system, or can you fix something in the that requires going to the back end admin panel. It may be someone who, like an unhappy customer, for example. You want to get someone to jump on the phone and call them, and so on. So there's a range of things that cause escalations.
Yeah, and then the other question that comes to mind. So I speak to a lot of organizations, and the first they're trying to understand, the rapid evolution of the technology in probably the shortest period of time of any evolution in history. It's not just a technological thing. Then they're asking which use cases, and from what I've observed, 80% to date have been internal-based use cases or productivity-based. But my question comes to, how do you measure return on investment on the productivity-based improvements?
There's two angles to that. So there's the personalization experience, and then there's the AI agent experience. I think I consider them as two different experiences. So one's the personalization. For example, when you use Freelancer and you post a project, all that AI stuff to help you write the brief, that I consider it to be a personalization experience. We A/B test everything. So every new feature that's major or substantial or revenue affecting, we basically statistically test that feature to see if it's actually relevant, like it's actually generating revenue, so, or whatever it may be. So you split the traffic into half stays with the current experience, half goes into which is control, half goes into tests, and then you basically measure a bunch of parameters. They may be what we call binomial or non-binomial. So like yes, no answers. Has the customer deposited money? Yes or no, right? At all. Or it might be a non-binomial metric, like how much revenue does the customer generate, right? And versus test versus control, which is a harder thing to get significance on because those numbers are quite volatile. So every new feature, we basically put it through an A/B test. We built a very complicated framework for doing so. And it can take weeks in order to resolve an answer, but we kind of look at various parameters and if it's positive, we push it. If it's not, we roll it back. We try and figure out what went wrong. And sometimes the whole hypothesis is wrong. Like the idea is just a bad idea, or you get second order effects you don't expect.
So that's the A/B testing side.
Yeah. So that's for personalization. For the agent side, you can actually do what would be every employer's dream, which is to have a dashboard. So we literally, for example, at sales agent, we have a dashboard of how many reach outs per hour it's doing. How many sales per hour? What's the revenue from the agent? And literally, you hit a button and you just watch the agent run, and it just generates sales for you.
That's all quantifiable. It's really easy to compare and just see what's the uplift in performance.
I think a lot of bosses would love to have a dashboard for each employee, kind of like their job, and you kind of just look at the graphs, and you can actually do that with AI, which is insane, right?
Yeah, that's amazing.
And you can do that. You can do it through Freelancer. You can just go to Freelancer, get a Freelancer to put us all together for you, and you can build these AI agents to do things, and you can actually measure what they're doing in terms of sales, what they're doing in terms of support, what they're doing in terms of whatever function it is. How many meal plans per day are they generating? How sticky were those meal plans? In terms of the customers, what sort of revenue was generated as a result of that? What's the churn rate of the user from the meal plans and so forth? So it's pretty mental stuff.
So for anyone that's looking to start a business, this is more about advice that you would share today. They might not even have an idea. We talked through kind of the end-to-end flow of an actual idea and how they might go about getting started. But from everything you've learned in growing and scaling businesses and having probably more access than anyone else in the world with the types of businesses that are growing, evolving on your platform, what advice would you share?
The biggest challenge of starting a business is you getting out there and actually doing it. I mean, something like 60% of people in the world want to start a business, and only 5% of people actually do it, right? And so you've just got to get out there and do it. Freelancer provides like the world's biggest startup garage, right? If we've got all the help you could possibly ever need. We've got people who will find products for you. They will manufacture products for you. They will, write software for you. They'll do anything, support. We've got virtual assistants who are, real people. They'll answer phones or do whatever, right? Anything you need for any size of business, big or small, we've got it on the platform, right? So that's all there, and it's very cost effective. It's, as I said before, it's between NASA published a white paper where they say between 80 and 99%. So you take away the cost, you take away the trouble of finding someone, and it's really up to you to deliver on it, right? I mean, how would your business change, or what would you do to start a business if you had unlimited access to labor and it was free? What would you do, right? It's all out there. So it's not free, but it's very low cost. So could effectively consider it that way. But it's that mindset of actually you've got to actually persist at things and try things and build things. Right? A lot of businesses exist in some of my friends' heads, and you only see them manifest at the pub. So at the pub, they talk about this amazing business they're doing, and then they go away and nothing happens. And you sit at the pub the next time, and they talk about this business, and they don't do anything because they get really frustrated and they actually don't know how to start and get going. You just got to get out there and just do it. You get out there and just do it. All big businesses start from crazy ideas, right? I mean, Facebook started because Zuckerberg wanted to, I think, pervert girls on an online thing where you had a bunch of photos of all the people from Harvard, and you could become friends and kind of try and get a girlfriend, right? That was a bit of a crazy idea. Now it's obviously morphed into something that's dramatically different from there. Instagram was that like photo filters, the filters to put on your photos, right? Now it's turned into a global phenomenon, right? Airbnb originally was like, well, they say at least the story was to actually have lilos, blow up lilos in people's houses. You come in and sleep on the lilo, right, et cetera, and so forth. So people, a lot of these big businesses start with ideas that are pretty crazy to start off with, and then evolve over time as you figure out product market fit and you figure out kind of what makes money and what doesn't make money and so forth. But the big thing is you've got to get out there and just do it, right? And a lot of people have excuses. I've got another friend, and she's constantly coming with excuses. She's very good at what she does, which is marketing to high end individuals, so the luxury sort of market. And it's constantly coming with excuses. I'll wait for this before I do this. So she took 4 years to start a business. I literally had to tell her, it's a great idea. You're really good at what you do. Just go and do it. Oh, but I'm going to wait for this to happen first or that to happen first before I do it. And no, just get out there and just do it. Get out there and do it. Come to Freelancer. We'll help you get it done. We've got, people, live recruiters and that will help you kind of get your project done. And we'll help you build your business, right? Just tell us what you need done, what you're trying to achieve, and we'll help you do it.
You've just got to remove yourself as the obstacle, because the number one thing that I see is the fear of failure that actually stops people from starting and moving forward.
That's all it is. It is. But let me tell you, once you get going, it gets easier and easier and easier over time, right?
Because you get proof points.
You do. You get feedback. And let me tell you, there's some moments in the entrepreneurial journey which are magical and you always remember. First time you get your product launched. Wow.
First order.
First time it blows up, the site goes down or whatever. But there's all these journeys, right? But as you learn, you get confidence and you become resilient. And the big thing is you just got to go out and do it. And you've got to no one's going to serve you life on a platter. You've got to forge your own destiny, forge your own future. And you have no excuse now, because we have anyone you need to get a job done, we've got on the site, and it's really inexpensive. And we'll help you.
Matt, thank you so much. What a great way to end the show. We've kind of covered so much, but for anyone that's looking to scale a brand or is an enterprise that is looking for ways to really capitalize on what is an incredibly exciting time in humanity and the evolutions of AI and everything that's possible on the platform. Wow, what a listen, and a live demo as well.
There you go.
Of an agent on the show. It's still going to learn how to speak Serbian, but I'm sure we'll get there.
I actually know what I did wrong, actually. I was thinking that,
It's
good,
possible. It was just a live demo glitch.
Yeah, live demo. So, it's live. It wasn't fake. But yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks, Matt. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.